Hello and welcome to the cryptocurrency news channel. Everyone wants to know why the next bear market would come or when it is. Now, I'm no prophet, but my personal opinion is it'll probably start at the end of Q1 next year, probably sometime in February or March, probably March. Some people say it'll actually last, the bull market will last into 2022, deep into 2022, past mid-year. Definitely possible, but my opinion is probably like end of Q1 next year. And yes, I do believe we'll be above 100K. Now, there are two things that I see right now that could really start the bear market, and both of them have to do with the SEC and the mighty Gary Gensler. The first thing, of course, we've talked about is stablecoins. Banks really don't like stablecoins, and as I've talked about before, and we know that Gary Gensler is kind of buddy with banks. He does do somewhat of their bidding because they do kind of pay some of his bills. So he's going to go after things that could possibly harm the banking system. Now, why stablecoins? As I've mentioned before, they offer yield, and they offer much higher yield than the 0% that banks offer right now. There is no way that banks can directly compete with them because some of these yields are lower double-digit yields, like 15, 16% yields. And obviously, you're not getting that kind of interest anywhere from a bank. Now, stablecoins are especially threatening because normal cryptos, are volatile. So people may not want the bigger yields if the base asset is volatile and they could actually lose their money. Fair. Some people want to be safe. Not really my cup of tea right now, but being safe is fine. However, stablecoins, especially things like USDC, are not really volatile. And USDC we know is backed by cash or cash equivalents, so it's actually perfectly fine being backed by Circle and Goldman Sachs. So the thing is that USDC doesn't have the risks associated with regular crypto while offering the superior yields. Now, in my book, that makes it much superior to banks, which basically hang their hats on the fact that cash is fairly stable. Yes, it does have inflation, but you're talking about like decades or years of before that really has too much effect. Whereas like cryptocurrencies, $1 today might be worth 20 cents tomorrow. So the thing is, that's what banks hang their hat on. But with stablecoins, you really don't have that problem. And since you're not really yield farming with a lot of these platforms, you don't really have the impermanent loss problem either. So that's the issue that banks have with stablecoins. They offer a very competitive product with much higher yields. So they're afraid that they might take their business, which is a legitimate fear of banks. So they want to slow the stablecoins down. So the SEC under Gary Gensler might actually move to slow them down. And obviously, a lot of crypto markets use stablecoins for liquidity. In fact, if you look at any of the DEXs, if you want some kind of stable or stability, you trade into USDT or USDC. DEXs don't really have access to fiat. So if you take away USDC and USDT, that'll destroy a lot of the liquidity, and that will actually destroy any kind of safe harbor people actually have if they want to trade in their coins if they think there's a bear market. So that actually might hamper the utility of DEXs if they destroy USDC or USDT. They also have other options like Terra Luna, but it's not quite as big as USDT or USDC. So that's the first thing that might cause a bear market. The second thing is obviously with Gary Gensler as well, and that's DeFi itself. Now, this does have to do with the crypto infrastructure bill that just passed. There are bipartisan attempts to actually amend it. But most of those attempts actually focus on either validators or miners, not DeFi. They obviously want validators and miners to be exempted, and they want wallet makers to be exempted because that would actually just destroy the entire cryptocurrency industry in the United States. A lot of states are actually taking advantage of Bitcoin farming and cryptocurrency like jobs, so they want those eliminated. Not too much of the language actually has to focus on DeFi. So DeFi is probably going to get kicked in the face regardless of what amendments they have, because it's kind of impossible a lot of time for DeFi operators, at least the ones that are truly DeFi, to actually collect personal information. So obviously they can't report. Now, Gary Gensler will swing his sword of regulatory justice or injustice, whichever way you look at it, and smite those DeFi heathens. And they're kind of afraid of it. And you're like, well, they're DeFi. He can't really regulate them, can he? Well, here's the thing. Most DeFi isn't actually DeFi. It's like more like not really DeFi. It's like Fi, but there's not really the D part. A lot of them do have God keys. A lot of them are centralized in terms of either distribution or even node power. So they're actually afraid of the SEC. Hester Pierce has even said that, true DeFi wouldn't be afraid of the SEC, but since most of the DeFi isn't actually DeFi, it's actually afraid of the SEC, and that makes a very, very good point. That it gives incentivizes DeFi projects to actually decentralize the ones that aren't scams, anyways. And Ginzer will definitely use the scam element in his argument for regulation of DeFi because let's face it, there are more than the average amount of scams in DeFi. A lot of those do end up being rug pulls. The other thing about DeFi is like even if they are DeFi, they can be geofenced by the government or agencies if they pass such laws. And if a big government geofences your DEX, that will kill most of your liquidity from that country. Yes, people can use VPNs, but most people probably won't. Like take China for instance. Like yes, people can use and do use VPNs to get around China's firewall for cryptocurrencies, but the mass majority of the population, even those that would want to trade crypto, really don't. So that's the thing right here at this point in time. You don't want the government to geofence your DEX because that will kill a lot of the liquidity. If they geofence like a lot of DeFi altogether, that will effectively kill DeFi in the United States. Yes, there'll still be like 10-15% of people that would actually use DeFi that will actually go around with VPNs, but at the same time, like the mass majority of people will just be locked out of the market. And obviously, DeFi is a huge thing for growth for cryptocurrencies. In the last year and also into the future. So locking out a lot of investment money from the United States and maybe for other countries as well will actually hamper the crypto market and possibly go for a bear market downturn. So I think these things are somewhat likely to at least partially happen. They won't probably just cancel DeFi in the United States, but they will definitely restrict it. They might not destroy all stablecoins, but they definitely restrict the yield farming as well. And that works in taking away liquidity and, of course, taking away some of the growth of DeFi. And the US accounts for something like 40% of all crypto investment right now. Other countries are catching up, but the US has the most disposable income. So that will put in a dent in crypto growth, and that might actually trigger the next bear market. I hope what some pundits are saying is actually true, that we won't truly have a bear market, but we'll have a steady 6-year growth with dips in the middle. I think that would be the best, a steady upward growth. But if a bear market comes, these would be the two reasons to actually start the bear market. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.